I got nightmares in my head, I fear thoughts build up until I can't hear. That my mind fills up into a creature, and it haunts me somewhere much deeper. I got nightmares in my head, I fear the thoughts build up until I can't hear. That my mind fills up into a creature, and it haunts me somewhere much deeper.
Hello and a warm welcome to True Crime Rocket Science, the most authentic voice in true crime. It's 6 days now since Gloria Clarke went missing on New Year's Eve. Despite CCTV showing the exact time and location where the 8-year-old entered the River Tees, and despite diving teams scouring the river, they haven't been able to locate her. A spokesperson for Cleveland Police said, quote, "We echo our previous message that the river is particularly deep at the moment and extremely fast-flowing due to recent weather. We would ask informal search parties to stand down due to these hazardous conditions around the riverbank." End quote. We are now approaching the end of the first week in January, closer to the time and, more important, the climate conditions when Nicola Bulley went missing. Obviously, the more water entering a river, the harder it is not only to search, but also to navigate in order to search. The difficulty searching in water is confirmed once again in this search for Gloria Clarke. Meanwhile, diagonally across the country, another woman has gone missing in somewhat stranger circumstances. Lucy Charles, a 39-year-old, has been missing from Bangor-on-Dee since December 22nd. Before we get to that, if you haven't subscribed to the channel, please do. In other news, Oscar Pistorius was released today. If you're interested in my book, my very last book in a series of 14 on that case, read Justice Eventualis. I'll put a link to that in the description. If you're enjoying this analysis, please like, share, leave a comment. You can also hit the thanks button, and let's get started. So there's been very little news on Lucy Charles over the past 2 weeks. And then yesterday evening, local cops made this rare announcement. They said, quote, "Personal items belonging to Lucy had been found during the search on the bank of the River Dee." That's not the T, that's the River Dee, close to the Severn Trent water treatment works. They have renewed an appeal for public help, but also warned about getting too close to the River Dee, which they said is in a very dangerous state of flooding at this time. So it's almost a parallel to what's the search for Gloria Clarke on the River Tee. Chief Inspector Stephen Roberts of North Wales Police also said today, meaning Friday, Lucy will have been missing for 2 weeks. It has been a particularly difficult time for Lucy's family, especially given that we just had the festive period. Lucy was last seen on the 22nd of December in Station Road, Bangor, that's Bangor-on-Dee, at 5:34 p.m. when she was captured on CCTV walking past the Royal Oak. Since this time, extensive searches have taken place, which have led us to find personal items of Lucy's on the bank of the River Dee. We have carried out extensive inquiries and searches of both the River Dee and the local area. So currently 2 women are missing, and they're searching kind of the river area. In the one case it's the River Tee, and the other case it's the River Dee. The one is on the east coast of England, and the other one the west coast of, I think it's Wales, North Wales. The one woman is 80 years old, the other woman is 39 years old. And then there's a third woman, 43-year-old Laura Wilkie, who, like Lucy Charles, went missing before Christmas. And she was just recently found in Roselle Park in Ayr, South Ayrshire, on the west coast of Scotland. Her death is being treated as unexplained. Very little has been said about Laura, including where in the park she was found. But according to the Daily Mail, quote, "Ms. Wilkie was reported missing on December 19 after being seen sat on a bench near the Millennium Bridge at around 8:30 p.m. the day before." And if you think about it, that is quite late. We know that Gaynor Lord disappeared at around about 4 o'clock and that was already after sunset. Well, 8:30 is very late in the evening to be sitting in a park, alone in a park, on a bench, in the dark. Also, a river does cross through Roselle Park, but it's still unclear whether she was found on land or in the water. As I say, the coverage of 43-year-old Laura Wilkie has been very, very little, very, very sparse. So where are we? If we do a tally of all the names that we've been dealing with in terms of these sorts of stories, we have Nicola Bully, which was last year this time. Then there are 4 or 5 more names from just this festive season, right? There's Gaynor Lord, Claire Marshall, Gloria Clarke, Lucy Charles, and possibly Laura Wilkie as well. And if you add them all together, that's 6 women who have disappeared in arguably the same circumstances, where they go out at night, apparently alone, and apparently close to a river, and then they disappear. Now, for the serial killer fans out there, if you know the United Kingdom, you know that there are CCTV cameras on almost every pillar and post. It's very difficult to go from A to B in any kind of urban fabric, any kind of urban setting, without being captured on CCTV. And we know that Gloria Clarke was captured on CCTV actually entering the water. And so if across the board we actually have plenty of CCTV footage of the victims in some of these cases, including Claire Marshall, we were just not shown it, and Gloria Clarke also not shown it. But Gloria Clarke is perhaps the best example yet. Do you agree there would be a pattern of a particular individual seen in the area and there just isn't? Now, I think another way of thinking about this is if this period passes, I'm talking about the festive season, if we get to, let's say, let's cap it off at the end of January, maybe the first 2 weeks of February. If we get to that point and then these disappearances stop, then what would you think could be the reason for that? And correlation is not necessarily causation, but I think we will have to see if there's a drop in these types of disappearances, then that may be indicative of a particular psychology, let's call it a serial killer psychology, that is taking place in the United Kingdom right now. And while law enforcement seem to be at pains to try and keep a lot of this quiet and release the minimum amount of information, I wonder whether another approach is perhaps not more helpful, where the community can act once again like a village, and people who are feeling despair can maybe reach out to folks around them. As long as you reinforce this idea of taboo, well, people aren't going to want to talk to anyone else, and they're going to stay in that isolated state. If you're in the United Kingdom, I'd be interested to hear your thoughts on this. Thank you for listening, and I'll see you guys next time.